Hi, I'm Diane Scolaro, Development and Communications Director for the Vermont Arts Council. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our new statewide community arts project that's launching in a couple of weeks, and it's called Art Fits Vermont. But before we start that, I'm wondering if you took part in the Palettes of Vermont project.
Yes.
Great.
We did. From the Rockland Arts Museum project, we participated.
Well, some of this will sort of be a repeat of that, but hopefully a lot of it will be new information. I want to start by telling you just a little bit about the Vermont Arts Council, who we are, and what we do. The Vermont Arts Council is a state arts agency. Every state in the nation has a state arts council, but Vermont's is different in that we are the only one that is also a 501c3 not-for-profit. We receive about a third of our funding from the National Endowment for the Arts, a third from the state legislature, and a third from memberships, partnerships, and various other private sources. So the mission of the Vermont Arts Council is to advance and preserve the arts in Vermont's communities. Not surprisingly, arts is in our mission, but so is communities. We're really all about Vermont communities. And about every 5 years, we go around the state and we ask folks what's important to them. It's part of our strategic planning process. So here's our executive director, Alex Aldrich, and in the last round, we went around and we asked community arts leaders, what is it you need to succeed? Well, of course, the first answer everybody comes up with is more money. And certainly, we are constantly working to find more monetary resources for our local partners. But the question was really bigger than that. What is it you need to be sustainable, to be viable, to be recognized in your communities? And so what our constituents said is that's what they were looking for. They wanted to be engaged. They wanted, when community economic development folks sat down, they wanted to be included in those conversations. So the Arts Council staff and board sat down and said, well, how can we achieve this? One of the people who was in that conversation is Warren Kimball. He's a board member of the Arts Council, and he's also an artist from Brandon. A lot of people are familiar with the story of Brandon. In the early 2000s, or prior to that, the town of Brandon was really struggling in that it was a town in economic decline and was looking for a way to develop funds and community spirit. And in Brandon, they decided to take on a project called A Really, Really Pig Show. And they got about 50 of these pig forms, and they were created by artists of all ages and abilities, and they were auctioned at the end of the year, and they raised $180,000. And that money allowed them to purchase a building in Brandon that became the Brandon Artists Guild. But more importantly, it created a tremendous amount of community spirit and recognition for the town of Brandon. So Warren said, we should take this to the state level. Well, it's one thing if you're in a town of 4,000. It's another if you're trying to create something like this on a statewide level. But we considered, if we were going to do that, what is it that we would want to see happen in a project like that? The first thing that we wanted to provide was opportunities for everybody who took part to be an artist, to have an opportunity to express themselves creatively and to celebrate art. Our second goal was to create a project that was community building, that would give artists, organizations, social service agencies, libraries, businesses a chance to work together in ways they perhaps hadn't in the past. And third, we wanted to provide a project where there was at least the opportunity for economic development, where artists might sell or auction their palettes for the good of a local interest or cause. Oh, and Warren Kimball added one more goal: it had to be fun. So with all that in mind, in January of 2006, we launched Palettes of Vermont. The project was launched in January. We had, at the outset, hoped that 1,000 people would take part from about 5 communities. And the day after the project was launched at the State House, all of the major dailies in the state and television stations ran stories on it. And within 3 months, instead of 1,000 participants, we had 40,000 participants. We gave away 7,000 wood palettes and 30,000 paper palettes to anybody in the state who wanted to create art. Well, not surprisingly, with that many palettes out there, palette art started cropping up all over the state. This exhibit is of student art. It was featured at the Chandler in Randolph. On the left is the State House in Montpelier, and on the right is the Fisk Farm at Isle La Motte. This is the Newport Chowder Festival. Now, while these palettes are 12 by 16 inches, in St. Albans, they made a 12 by 16 foot pallet, and it was mounted on a trailer and it toured the state. The great thing about this is that it was painted by 500 community members. A local artist did the design, and then 500 community members came out and helped paint it. So in the summer of 2006, this was a tremendous source of community pride as it toured the state. And the image on there, I'm not sure how well you can see it, but it's a historic representation of downtown St. Albans. So while that was the largest, and as a matter of fact, they applied to the Guinness Book of Records for that, there were some sort of other size pallets as well. In Bennington, they created 57 pallets out of 4 by 8 sheets of plywood, and they lined the streets of Bennington with them. And in Brandon, they also took 4 by 8 sheets of plywood. They put them on boxes, and they put them out in front of stores throughout the summer, and at the end of the year, they auctioned them off. The pallets were made out of every conceivable medium. You can see here the pallet is woven into this basket. The middle one is all soft sculpture. It's actually life-size soft sculpture, and the one on the right is made out of steel. But pallets arrived in glass and chocolate and cheese and cookie dough and paper mache and eggshells and everything you can imagine. The display on the left is in Jericho, and in the right is a youth summer camp in Brandon. Well, we wanted to celebrate all this creativity, so in June of 2006, we held a big party on the State House lawn, and we called it Pallet Palooza. We invited everybody who had done a pallet to come to the State House, and we had about 1,000 pallets on display and 3,000 people, including the governor. Warren Kimball had made a special pallet for him. And at the end of the day, we invited everybody to line up on the State House steps with their pallet for a group photo. We also had the great fortune of having been given a van. This is Catherine and John Patterson. Catherine is the renowned children's author from Barrie, and she and John had purchased this van for their own use. They have an extensive personal art collection, and for years they would invite schools into their home and show their art collection, but then as school budgets were cut, they purchased the van with the intention of taking their collection around the state. But then John's health was failing, so they donated the van to the Arts Council. And we loaded the van with a selection of pallets, sort of some samples, and we took it around the state and went to local places where pallets were on display. This is at the Chaffee in Rutland. We went to about 40 different communities that summer. Now, out of the pallet holes, out of the pallets, came these little pieces of wood filler, and we loaded those into our van. And everywhere we went, we offered people the chance to do craft projects with these, and it was one of the most popular components of our travels. This is a school in Rutland County where all the kids did pallets, and they're holding them up for this aerial photograph. Well, while the project took off a lot faster than we could have anticipated, as I said, we had hoped 1,000 people would take part and 40,000 did. And it all happened in a very short period of time. We did have the foresight to survey right from the beginning. We surveyed the artists, the schools, the arts organizations, and the audiences that took part. And we were very fortunate that we had done that, because when it was all over and we had a chance to catch our breath, we were able to go back and say, gee, what was this all about? And what we found, as you recall, the first thing we were hoping for was that people would participate, and 40,000 did. People came from 247 of Vermont's 251 towns, so the project definitely spanned the entire state. We had 145 schools, and there are only 250 schools in Vermont, and about 180 organizations that got involved. Artists loved this project because it gave them a chance for new audiences to see their work, and connect with other organizations that they hadn't worked with in the past. As I said, about 180 organizations took part in this, and all kinds of partnerships developed as a result that hadn't existed in the past. A lot of the organizations that had pallets and shared them with community members found that it brought in new members and new people taking part in their services. And as I said, we had hoped that there would be an economic development opportunity with this. Well, of those 180 organizations, we heard back from 70 of them that either sold or auctioned their pallets. And those 70 alone raised $300,000 from the sale of their products that went right back into the community and was used for whatever the local projects were that they were raising money for. We were also very interested in audiences. We heard from about 1,000 audience members, and I think this is absolutely fascinating. about a third of the people traveled 50 miles or more to attend a pallet event. And about a third of the people also went to between 1 and 5 pallet events, and 10% of the people went to between 5 and 10. And I think what happened was once people saw it and saw the creativity, they were so excited about it that they would travel the state. And I had the great job of taking the van around the state and going to all those different communities, and I would keep running into people, somebody in Randolph and then in Burlington and in Bellas Falls along the way. So people definitely did travel. So with all of this, what we discerned was that this project connected people, connected communities, and really the entire state through this shared artistic experience. And it uncovered a need for people to have a creative expression and to be part of something that was larger than oneself. So with all that in mind, we sat and thought, what can we do next? We weren't ever sure we were going to do something again because the first project had exhausted us, but there was so much clamor for another project. We started thinking about, if we're going to do this, what might it look like? And when we started thinking about what would we like this next project to be, we remembered that Pallets was all about making connections, individuals with organizations, with communities, with the entire state. And what signifies connections more than puzzle pieces? So it was with that we came up with the idea of Art Fits Vermont. Now, I love the name of this project because you can take Vermont out of this puzzle piece and you can put in there Bellas Falls or Windsor. You can put artists, you can put schools, you can put libraries. Art fits everyone. And the goal of our project is to create something that's larger than the sum of the parts. Now, each one of the puzzle pieces will be its own piece of art, standalone art. But when they're put together, they'll also create something absolutely massive that will demonstrate the creativity of Vermonters. So having done this project, or a statewide community project, once before, there are some things we know that we'd like to continue doing, some things we'd like to change, and some things we'd like to add. Of the things that worked really well last time, the first thing is that the puzzle pieces, like the pallets, will be free. There's no charge to take part in this project. Last time we gave out, this is where I confuse my P's, my pallets and my puzzle pieces, but last time we gave out 7,000 wood pallets and 30,000 paper pallets. This time we're giving away at least 8,000 wood puzzle pieces and 50,000 paper puzzle pieces. We'll give them out until they're gone, and we hope that nearly 60,000 will accomplish the interest of as many people as want to. Now, secondly, the last project had totally flexible participation. Whatever organization or community group got involved, they could do with this project whatever they want. And let me just at this point say that when I talk about community, it could be a geographically defined area, or it could be a library or a school or a senior center. Any of those would be considered communities. And however a community wants to use this project, we're totally open to it, because this is all about making art in whatever way it works best. Now, the Vermont Arts Council will continue to be a resource and support for this, providing promotion in addition to the puzzle pieces, and supporting questions and trying to link people through the project. Now, the last project, as I said, launched in January, and we pretty much wanted to wrap it up by the fall, so it was a relatively short period of time. And what happened was some folks were only just learning about it at the time that it was kind of winding down. So this year, the project launches on April 16th, next week, and it will continue all through 2009 and actually won't end until January of 2010. So the thing that's really great about this is it gives a lot of organizations and schools a chance to build it into their curriculum or their programming. The other thing that happened last time was that the Chittenden Bank was among some of the places where you could get a pallet and not necessarily through an organization. They were a distribution point. And a lot of people created their pallets and they were so proud of them, but if they didn't get them through an organization, they might not have known what to do with them afterwards. So they were sort of orphaned pallets. We don't want that to happen this time. So whether people display their puzzle pieces in their community or not, we're going to invite them to be part of a whole statewide community, and I'll talk about that a little more in a minute. Now, the third thing that we wanted to improve on is that the pallet project was wildly successful, and a lot of folks said, you got to get people in from around the country to learn about this. But the Vermont Arts Council is the state agency, and our resources and our network is pretty limited to the state of Vermont. So this time we are partnering with the Vermont Department of Tourism and Marketing. They are the state's marketing machine. They have the resources, they have the network, and they have the knowledge to help us spread the word about this project. And it will be going out way beyond the state's borders over the next couple of years. Adding to this is that the Lake Champlain Quadricentennial Celebration is taking place in 2009. Now, I know in the Upper Valley, Lake Champlain seems like a far off place, but what's going to happen is that because of VDTM's extensive promotion, and the entire state will be working on bringing people into the state towards Lake Champlain, the entire state should be seeing a lot of visitors during 2009. So by tying this project in with the Quad celebration, all of the communities that are doing puzzle events will be included in their statewide promotion. Now, as I said, we were looking forward to bringing everybody together in a statewide celebration. Well, that Palette Palooza we had last time, this time we're going to do Puzzle Palooza. It will be in July of 2009. It will be on the shores of Lake Champlain as part of the Quadricentennial celebration. And Lake Champlain has a 22-mile bike path. My vision is that we're going to line that bike path with puzzle pieces. Now, because Lake Champlain is bordered by New York and Quebec and the tie between Samuel de Champlain and France, we're also going to give some puzzle pieces to artists in New York and Quebec and in France. And so as part of our Puzzle Palooza celebration, we'll invite them to bring their puzzle pieces, and we'll join those all together with the ones created by Vermonters. Also, of course, the thing that everybody wanted that we were not able to provide was funding for this project. We gave out the pallets and we said, we hope you can do something with this, but the communities that were the most successful were those that had some seed money or had the resources to leverage additional money. And so this time around, while the Arts Council doesn't have the funding to do that, we're working with the Vermont State Legislature to provide funding for that. As a matter of fact, we are asking specifically for an appropriation of $90,000, all of which will be re-granted to communities around the state taking part in Art Fits. Here's the tricky part. At this point, if you go to the State House and you are saying that you want money, they will tell you there is no money, there is no money, there is no money, and that bears out in the newspapers and in the radio. However, at the end of the day, there is some money, and $90,000 is actually a minuscule amount in the overall budget. So what our work is right now is encouraging you and other constituents to let your legislators know what it would mean to have funding for this project in your community. And this is a particularly important time because as they get towards the end of the legislature, this is when those kinds of decisions are made. So, with another week before the project launches, this is the time to start thinking about how you might take advantage of it. This is a great time to start thinking about who you might want to work with. Of course, artists immediately come to mind, but so should every other group in your community, libraries and social service agencies and daycares and schools. This is the time to start making plans with them. And those plans can be as simple as just providing an opportunity to make art, have people come together maybe in the town square and make art. But it could be other things too, like planning exhibits or auctions. And hopefully everybody will join us in July of 2009 for Puzzle Palooza. This is also the time that we're encouraging people to order their puzzle pieces. The puzzles are all being manufactured by one wood manufacturer up in Lyndonville. And the pallets were Vermont maple. The ones that we're getting this time are Vermont oak, and they're currently being cut. But you can go to the Vermont Arts Council website and order your puzzle pieces now. And shortly after the launch of the project, about May 1st, we'll start distributing these around the state. Any organization can order 50 wood puzzle pieces and 250 paper puzzle pieces. Any teacher can order 250 paper puzzle pieces, and individual artists can order their own. Now, I want to be clear that it's not that we don't value children's art. That's not why we are doing paper puzzles for schools. It's because for any large group, whether you have a daycare or senior center or an after-school project, we would be doing the paper ones just for the large groups. And this is the time we also ask that you become an arts advocate. Hopefully you know who your legislators are. Hopefully you have contact with them, but if you don't, I have information over here that will tell you not only who they are, but how you can track them down. And also if you run into them at the gas station or out raking their yard or walking their dog, that's a great time to stop them. Or phone them, email, or send a letter and tell them what the arts mean to you and why they should support funding for the Arts Fits project. This is where we are in the timeline. For the last 6 weeks or so, we've been visiting communities around the state. This is the 17th or 18th town we've been to. And also we've been talking to legislators to be sure that they are aware of what the project, the Pallets project did and the potential for the puzzle project. We hope you'll join us next week at the State House for Arts Achievement Day. It's a full day of opportunities to meet with your legislators, but also to network with other arts advocates, to learn about this project and some other activities that are going on. And so I encourage you to pick up a flyer before you leave today. After April 16th, as organizations start getting their puzzle pieces created and starting to show them around the state, the Arts Council's role will change at that point from the distribution to promoting the things going on and taking our van. You saw in the picture it was white, it's now blue. With the modern technology, you can wrap a white van and turn it into a blue-black van. We'll be loading that up with an exhibit of puzzle pieces and touring that around the state and for the next 2 years, visiting different community events. As I said, that will go into 2009. We'll have at least one exhibit in the gallery that's at the Arts Council's office in Montpelier. The Lake Champlain Quadricentennial will run throughout 2009 and Puzzlepalooza. The whole thing will wrap up with a show at the State House in January of 2010. Throughout the project, we hope that people will call on the staff at the Arts Council as resources. What we're there for is really to answer your questions and to help you succeed in making this the best possible opportunity for your organization or community possible. A couple of other really important resources are our website, which has packed with information now and going forward, and we will be sending out an email to folks on a regular basis with new opportunities and new resources for making their projects successful and ways that they can network with other communities and potentially share resources. Another resource is the Lake Champlain Quadricentennial. Celebrate Champlain are the folks who are responsible for promoting not only what's happening on Lake Champlain or in conjunction with Lake Champlain, but also all around the state. And so they are looking for events to include in all of their promotion, and they're asking people to quadricize their events. And by doing that, two things happen. One is that you get to use the Lake Champlain logo on all of your promotional materials, so as people travel the state, they'll be able to see this logo consistently used. And secondly, the Lake Champlain folks will include your event in their promotion. This is just another minute longer, so. Also, we want to thank our sponsors who are making this possible, and those include the Vermont Wood Manufacturers Association, who are making the beautiful puzzle pieces for us, Vermont Department of Tourism and Marketing, the Lake Champlain folks, but also cash sponsorship from Hubbard and Forge, Vermont Artisans Designs, and Chittenden Bank. And it's those folks who are allowing us to purchase the puzzle pieces that we'll be able to distribute around the state. So a really important part of this project is capturing people's email addresses so that we can contact them. As you can guess, we're expecting about 60,000 people to take part in this project, and the only way that we could manage it or get information out in a timely manner is via email and our website. So we're very aware that a lot of folks don't like to share their email address, and we promise that we will take good care of it. We won't share it with anybody else, but that's a very important part for us, not only so that we can keep track of you, but so that we can be able to show legislators and other funders how broad this project is. We'll be able to say this number of people from Bellas Falls took part or from Windham County took part, and I think that we'll be able to demonstrate really broad participation. So I want to thank you for coming this afternoon. I hope this has been helpful. If you have other questions, the best place to go is our website, www.vermontartscouncil.org, and we're there to help. Thanks.